always. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Africans. So, despite all those accolades which were being said by my sister, I think there is just simple. I'm a vendor. That's simple. Wherever I am, I'm selling, and whatever I'm doing, I'm trying to sell something because I'm a vendor. So, yes, Jerry Nyazungu, I was born and bred in the dusty streets or in the rural areas of Watomba. And that's where I come from, Kumusha in Watomba and Samanyika. I think some of you actually know the song called Mukoma Justice if you are not AMA 2000, but I think most of you are young. So Jerry actually leads a company called M&J, which currently employ about around 70 youth, and most of the people we employ are youth. I think I'm just the one who is now moved from that category by a year and or so. But most of our guys are youths. But anyway, I like entrepreneurship, and actually our motto for our business is we need to build timeless businesses in Africa. Why building timeless businesses in Africa is because we've noticed that Africans, we've got a lot of businesses. If you notice, I think we've got buses. We used to have a lot of bus companies which have since disappeared. And most of the people like us Africans will say, or this guy has actually disappeared with his wealth. And we need to demystify that. Why is it like that? Why is that a business is not moving from another generation to another generation? That's why I have actually founded M&J and said, how can we develop our African business? So M&J is in Zimbabwe. It's also in Zambia, in Lusaka. So we've got offices in Harare, in Bulawayo, and Lusaka, Zambia, where we are championing entrepreneurship. And we assist companies from setting up companies in Zambia, setting up companies in South Africa, setting up companies in Zimbabwe. And we also have a software company under M&J, which does your ERP software. We also have an HR consultant company. We also have a marketing and sales company. And lastly, we also have an accounting firm. By the end of this year, we must also have an audit firm under M&J. So Jerry, besides that, I'm also an author of 2 books. The first book is called The Chartered Vendor. I think that's where my title is coming from, The Chartered Vendor. And if you notice, the chartered is a bit small and the vendor is a bit big. I'll narrate more about that. Then I've got this new book, which is called Selling Like a Vendor. Selling Like a Vendor is a book which I launched on the 16th March. Doing very, very well. I never thought that I can actually survive on just selling a book, because I think our daily revenue in terms of selling these books, it's ranging from around 150 to 200 US a day, just coming from the books. So why the chartered vendor? So if you are going to see most of my social media platforms, I'm just the chartered vendor. So that's where I want to start from. The chartered, it's coming from, I'm a chartered secretary by profession. I'm also a public accountant registered here in Zimbabwe. I did CIS, I did a CCA, they also call it ACA. But the reason why the chartered is a bit smaller and the vendor is bigger is because I think that, or personally, much of my experience was from the streets. Yes, I've been in schools, good schools like Marisi Brothers Nyanga, but I've noticed that much of my experience, which I'm using right now, even to advertise on my platforms, even that's why the reason this book has actually sold more than 11,000 copies, and it's not easy to sell books in Africa. So if you can multiply $20 times 11,000, I think you can see that there's a substantial amount of money from just selling books. So I encourage you to also sell your stories. So the chartered vendor, it's a story which I thought can inspire Africans. It's a story which is relatable, because if you notice, some of our kids, you've got relatives who are vendors. Some of us are actually vending. Some of us are coming from poor backgrounds. I was also selling in the streets. So probably I'll start narrating by how I became a vendor. Because most of the people say, I think this story is a lie. Most of the people have said, I think until I had to show them the pictures, until Mr. Aaron Chundramoyo had to do my forward because he saw me as a vendor. He witnessed the 5 years I was a vendor. So the reason why I was a vendor was when I finished my A-level, unlike most of you guys, or thanks to actually Dr. Masiwa for giving us this platform, thanks to Dr. Masiwa for founding Higher Life Foundation in 1996 to cater for disadvantaged people, to give education to young people. So unlike me, A-level, I finished my A-level, I think that was around 2004. Then after finishing my O-level, I decided to take a path which was kind of different from most of people. And I started by doing temporary teaching in Nyamingura in Zindi Secondary, that's in Eastern Highlands, teaching people. And I was teaching people almost of my age. Since I was coming from A-level, I started teaching O-level, mathematics and accounting. So when I was at Nyamingura, I read a newspaper, Herald newspaper, and there was a nice story, a motivating story, which changed my life, which changed the landscape of where I was about to go. So this story was about Dr. Gideon Gono. I think most of you know him. Dr. Gideon Gono was the former Reserve Governor, former Reserve Bank Governor, and he was his term was from 2003 to 2018. So the newspaper was written from a T-boy to the Reserve Bank Governor. Then it caught my eye, and I started reading that book. I tell you the truth, it was my first time hearing that someone cannot get into an university and still be successful. So I was so fascinated about this story. And it was mentioning about how he managed to rise up to when he was a doctor, up to when he was now in charge of the Reserve Bank Governor.